Arriving at the registry office for the inheritance with her son, the daughter of a wealthy woman saw her husband with his lover. And when the lover and husband discovered what the woman's father had left for her, Sarah, a dedicated nurse and mother, receives an unexpected inheritance after her mother's death. But along with the country house come secrets she never imagined. Family conflicts, a suspicious husband, and an impending legal battle. Sarah will have to face challenges that will test her courage and determination. Sarah always had a hectic life, working as a nurse at a local hospital and taking care of her 10-year-old son, Lucas. After her mother's death, a successful businesswoman, Sarah found herself wrapped in a mix of sadness and silent hope. The reading of the will was scheduled for that morning at the registry office, and she was eager to find out what her mother had left for her and Lucas. The morning was gray as Sarah and Lucas left home. The sky seemed to reflect her state of mind, cloudy and full of uncertainties. As they drove to the city center, Sarah tried to concentrate on the road, but her mind was in constant turmoil. Lucas, sitting beside her, played with a small action figure, oblivious to his mother's worries. On the way, they stopped at a traffic light. It was at that moment that Sarah saw a scene that made her heart stop for a moment. Across the street, in a cafe, was her husband, James, with an unknown woman. They were laughing and seemed very intimate. Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach. It could just be a friend, she tried to convince herself. But the scene would not leave her mind. The woman, with blonde hair and a charming smile, touched James's arm affectionately, making Sarah feel a pang of jealousy and doubt. James, who used to be loving and attentive, now seemed distant and involved in a world to which Sarah had no access. The intense look he exchanged with the woman in the cafe made Sarah question everything she knew about her marriage. When the light turned green, she sped up, trying to push that image away. They finally arrived at the registry office. The waiting room was silent, with few clients. Sarah held Lucas's hand as they waited to be called. She tried to focus on what was to come, but the vision of James with the other woman deeply disturbed her. Memories began to come back. Sarah recalled the days when she and James were happy, when he was still loving and attentive. But over the years, something changed. James started working more, coming home late, and becoming increasingly distant. Sarah wondered if that moment at the cafe was just the tip of the iceberg or a reflection of a bigger problem in their marriage. While they waited, Lucas, not understanding the tension in the air, asked, "Mom, what are we going to do after this?" Sarah smiled, trying to hide her worry. "We'll take a walk in the park. How about that?" Lucas nodded, excited about the prospect of playing outdoors. The innocent smile of her son gave Sarah a brief moment of peace amidst the whirlwind of emotions. Finally, they were called. The reading of the will began bureaucratically, with the lawyer explaining the procedures. Sarah barely paid attention, her mind still fixed on James's potential betrayal. When it was finally time to reveal the provisions, the lawyer cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. According to the last will of Mrs. Eleanor, most of the businesses and financial assets will be left to Mr. James, he said. Sarah felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. For Sarah, she left the country house in Lakeside. Sarah was stunned. The country house in Lakeside? That old ruin she had only visited a few times in her childhood? Was that what her mother thought she deserved? After the reading, Sarah and Lucas left the registry office in silence. Sarah was still in shock, trying to process everything that had happened. "Mom, are we going to live in the country house?" Lucas asked, breaking the silence. Sarah looked at her son and saw the curiosity in his eyes. Maybe it was an opportunity to start over, away from James and all the complications of the city. "Yes, son. We will," she replied, trying to find some hope in that unexpected new beginning. As they drove back home, Sarah felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, she was devastated by James's apparent betrayal and the disappointment with her mother's will. On the other hand, the idea of starting over in a new place, away from the complications of the city and painful memories, began to seem attractive. She decided that instead of drowning in sadness, she would face this challenge head-on. Arriving home, Sarah started packing. She explained to Lucas that they were moving to the country house and that it would be a great adventure. Lucas, with his childlike curiosity, was excited about the idea of living in a new place. "Will we have a big garden to play in?" he asked, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Yes, we will," Sarah replied, trying to keep the positivity. While packing her things, Sarah found an old photo album. She and James were smiling in several photos, memories of happier times. Tears silently streamed down her face as she flipped through the pages. Despite the pain, she decided she needed to move on for the sake of Lucas and herself. The next day, they loaded the car with all their things and said goodbye to the house that had been their home for so many years. The trip to Lakeside was long, but full of lively conversations between mother and son. Lucas asked questions about what the new house would be like, the school, and if they would make new friends. When they finally arrived at the country house, they were greeted by an old building, with broken windows and an overgrown garden. It was evident that it needed a lot of work, but Sarah was determined to turn that place into a home. "We'll start cleaning early tomorrow," Sarah said, trying to keep the optimism. "But for today, let's explore the house and see what we have here." Lucas ran inside, excited about the idea of exploring the new rooms and hallways. As she walked through the house, Sarah couldn't help but feel a connection to the place. Despite its abandoned state, there was something comforting about the old building. Maybe it was the memory of her mother, who once loved that place. She decided that she would honor Eleanor's memory by turning the country house into a welcoming home for her and Lucas. Moving to the country house was anything but easy. The house was in terrible condition, with falling tiles and broken windows. Sarah felt lost, not knowing where to start. With the little money she had, she hired a local contractor to do the most urgent repairs. On the first day, Sarah met John, a former school principal from the village who now lived in the house with her mother's permission. "I didn't know anyone was living here," said Sarah, surprised. John explained that Eleanor had let him stay there after he had lost everything due to financial problems. "I know the house is yours now, but I would like to ask to stay until I find a place to go," he asked humbly. Seeing the sincerity in John's eyes, Sarah decided to let him stay. After all, he could be useful with stories about her mother and the house. Lucas quickly befriended John, who started helping them with the repairs. The following days were a mix of hard work and moments of despair. Sarah tried to stay calm, but frustration was constant. One night, while sitting on the porch looking at the starry sky, John joined her. "Your mother was an incredible woman," he said, breaking the silence. Sarah smiled sadly. "I know. I just don't understand why she left everything to James." John sighed. "Eleanor had her reasons. Maybe you'll find out in time." With John's help, Sarah began to rebuild the house and her life. Lucas was adapting well to the new school, and Sarah found work at the local hospital. The routine began to stabilize, but the shadow of James and the lover still loomed over her. One day, while Sarah was helping a young patient at the hospital, she met Mark, the boy's father. He was a carpenter who had become paraplegic in a work accident. Sarah felt an immediate connection with him, perhaps due to the common struggle they both faced. Mark was a man with kind eyes and an easy smile, even in the face of difficulties. He and Sarah began to talk regularly, exchanging stories about their lives and challenges. Sarah discovered that despite everything, Mark maintained a resilient spirit and determination that she deeply admired. Lucas and Timmy, Mark's son, also quickly became friends. The two boys spent hours playing together, running through the vast land of the country house, and exploring every corner. Seeing Lucas so happy gave Sarah a new spirit to face the challenges to come. Nights in Lakeside were peaceful, but Sarah's mind was always active. She worried about the future, the maintenance of the house, and Lucas's well-being. She felt torn between the desire to start over and the fear of the unknown. As Sarah continued to investigate the manipulation of the will, she made a shocking discovery. Old documents found in the house revealed that James had forged Eleanor's signature on several important papers. He had used Eleanor's terminal illness to manipulate the will and ensure that most of the assets would go to him. Sarah was devastated but determined to correct the injustice. She decided to confront James with the evidence she had. When she did, he initially denied everything, but upon seeing the documents, he turned pale. "You're going to pay for this," she said firmly. The legal battle that followed was arduous and exhausting. James hired expensive lawyers to try to disprove the allegations, but Sarah, with the help of John and her lawyer, was determined to fight to the end. The process was long, with several hearings and testimonies. Meanwhile, Sarah and Lucas continued to adapt to life in Lakeside. With the help of Mark, John, and other community members, they began to make significant improvements to the house and integrate better into village life. Sarah found solace in her work and growing friendship with Mark. The court hearings were emotional and tense. Sarah had to relive the painful memories of her mother's illness and James's betrayal. But with each new day in court, she felt stronger and more determined to see justice done. John, always present, offered words of encouragement and support. "Your mother would be proud of you," he said. "You're doing the right thing." Mark was also by her side, offering a friendly shoulder and a listening ear. "We're all here for you, Sarah," he said. "You're not alone." Finally, after months of legal battles, the court was ready to deliver the verdict. Sarah was nervous but confident. She knew she had done everything in her power to prove the truth. When the judge read the sentence in her favor, she felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Justice had prevailed. James was ordered to return all the assets he had fraudulently taken and to pay compensation for moral damages. He left the court in disgrace, while Sarah was surrounded by friends and supporters celebrating her victory. With the legal victory, Sarah began to look to the future with renewed hope. She knew the fight was not over, but she now had the resources and support needed to build a new life for herself and Lucas. Life at the country house began to take shape. Sarah, Lucas, and John worked tirelessly to turn the property into a welcoming home. With every nail hammered and wall painted, Sarah felt more connected to her mother's legacy. Lucas, for his part, loved the adventures the vast land offered. However, the shadow of the forged will still loomed over them. One afternoon, while Sarah was reorganizing boxes in the attic, she found an old diary of her mother's. The pages, yellowed with time, were filled with detailed notes about the family business and personal reflections. One entry, in particular, caught her attention. "James is pressuring me to sign documents I don't fully understand. Something is wrong. I need to protect Sarah." This discovery filled Sarah with curiosity and determination. Her mother knew something was wrong and tried to protect her. With John's help, Sarah began to investigate further. They sifted through old documents, talked to former employees and friends of Eleanor, and discovered that James had forged the will. Uncovering the fraud was an exhausting process, but the hope for justice renewed Sarah's strength. Mark, the carpenter she had met at the hospital, offered his unconditional support. His son, Timmy, was improving, and the friendship between the two families grew daily. Mark and Sarah started meeting frequently, sharing stories and dreams. One day, during one of these conversations, Mark held Sarah's hand. "You are an amazing woman, Sarah. Your mother would be proud of you." Mark's words resonated deeply, filling her with new hope and determination. Sarah began gathering statements and evidence to present in court. She knew that facing James legally would not be easy, but she was determined to fight for what was rightfully hers. With the help of a lawyer, she prepared the case meticulously. Meanwhile, life in Lakeside continued. Sarah found comfort in her work at the hospital, where she helped patients and made new friends. Lucas was happy in the new school, making many friends and excelling in his studies. The relationship between Sarah and Mark also blossomed. They shared a special connection built on mutual respect and unconditional support. Sarah's investigation led her to discover more secrets about James. He had not only forged the will but was also involved in illegal activities in the family business. Sarah gathered all the evidence and decided it was time to take the case to court. Before starting the legal process, Sarah felt the need to open up to Lucas about everything that was happening. One quiet night, while they were sitting on the porch, she explained the situation to her son. "Lucas, there's something important you need to know about your father," she began, her voice trembling. Lucas listened attentively as Sarah told him about James's betrayal and the manipulation of the will. "I know it's hard to understand, but I promise we're doing this to protect our future," she concluded. Despite being young, Lucas demonstrated surprising maturity. "I trust you, Mom. We'll get through this together," he said, hugging her. Lucas's words gave Sarah the strength she needed to continue. With the help of John and Mark, Sarah prepared for the approaching legal battle. They knew James would not give up easily and that the fight would be long and difficult. However, Sarah's determination was unwavering. She was ready to fight for justice and protect her mother's legacy. The legal battle was intense. Lawyers from both sides presented their arguments, and the evidence against James was revealing. Forged documents, testimonies from former employees, and fraudulent financial records painted a clear picture of betrayal and manipulation. When the judge finally delivered the verdict in favor of Sarah, there was a collective sigh of relief in the courtroom. James was ordered not only to return all the assets but also to pay compensation for moral damages. Justice had prevailed. Plot twist 2, a new chapter. After the verdict, Sarah was approached by her mother's lawyer, who handed her a letter. "Your mother left this for you," he said. The letter revealed that Eleanor had reserved a large sum of money for Sarah and Lucas, exclusively for them. "I knew you were strong enough to overcome any challenge," the letter said. With the money, Sarah decided to renovate the village school and hospital, investing in the community that had welcomed her. She felt a wave of relief and gratitude upon reading her mother's words. Eleanor always believed in Sarah's strength and determination, and now that belief was being rewarded. The renovations began quickly. Sarah involved herself in every detail, from selecting materials to supervising workers. John, with his knowledge of the village and experience, was an invaluable help. Mark, with his woodworking skills, contributed significantly, creating custom furniture for the school and hospital. While Sarah dedicated herself to the renovations, she also found time to spend with Lucas and Mark. They became a real family, supporting each other through all the difficulties. Lucas and Timmy, Mark's son, were inseparable, sharing adventures and further strengthening the bonds between the two families. Sarah and Mark began meeting frequently, not just to discuss renovations but also to share moments of leisure and relaxation. On one such occasion, during a picnic by the lake, Mark held Sarah's hand. "You transformed not just this house but also our lives," he said, his eyes full of emotion. Sarah felt a wave of gratitude and love. She had found in Mark a loyal and loving companion, someone with whom she could share her dreams and hopes. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied, smiling. The village community also got involved in the renovations. Local residents offered their time and skills to help, creating a true spirit of cooperation and solidarity. Festivals and community events began to be regularly organized, bringing life and joy to the village. The hospital and school renovations were successfully completed, transforming these institutions into models of excellence. The school was equipped with modern materials and technological resources, while the hospital received new medical equipment and facility improvements. The community's gratitude was palpable. Residents expressed their appreciation in various ways, from small gestures of affection to significant contributions to ongoing projects. Sarah felt deeply touched by the positive response and the unconditional support from everyone around her. Meanwhile, James faced the consequences of his actions. He not only lost all the assets he had acquired dishonestly but was also publicly exposed as a traitor and manipulator. His reputation was ruined, and he found himself in misery, without the support of friends or family. As Sarah reflected on her journey, she felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. She had overcome immense obstacles, found true love, and created a bright future for herself and Lucas. Her mother's legacy was safe, and she was determined to honor it every day. The courts were packed when Sarah's case against James began. The tension in the air was palpable, with both sides presenting their evidence and arguments. Sarah was nervous but determined. She knew her mother had trusted her to do the right thing. The legal battle was intense. Lawyers from both sides presented their arguments, and the evidence against James was revealing. Forged documents, testimonies from former employees, and fraudulent financial records painted a clear picture of betrayal and manipulation. When the judge finally delivered the verdict in favor of Sarah, there was a collective sigh of relief in the courtroom. James was ordered not only to return all the assets but also to pay compensation for moral damages. Justice had prevailed. Developed emotions: surprise, relief, gratitude, love. After the verdict, Sarah was approached by her mother's lawyer, who handed her a letter. "Your mother left this for you," he said. The letter revealed that Eleanor had reserved a large sum of money for Sarah and Lucas, exclusively for them. "I knew you were strong enough to overcome any challenge," the letter said. With the money, Sarah decided to renovate the village school and hospital, investing in the community that had welcomed her. She felt a wave of relief and gratitude upon reading her mother's words. Eleanor always believed in Sarah's strength and determination, and now that belief was being rewarded. The renovations began quickly. Sarah involved herself in every detail, from selecting materials to supervising workers. John, with his knowledge of the village and experience, was an invaluable help. Mark, with his woodworking skills, contributed significantly, creating custom furniture for the school and hospital. While Sarah dedicated herself to the renovations, she also found time to spend with Lucas and Mark. They became a real family, supporting each other through all the difficulties. Lucas and Timmy, Mark's son, were inseparable, sharing adventures and further strengthening the bonds between the two families. Sarah and Mark began meeting frequently, not just to discuss renovations but also to share moments of leisure and relaxation. On one such occasion, during a picnic by the lake, Mark held Sarah's hand. "You transformed not just this house but also our lives," he said, his eyes full of emotion. Sarah felt a wave of gratitude and love. She had found in Mark a loyal and loving companion, someone with whom she could share her dreams and hopes. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied, smiling. The village community also got involved in the renovations. Local residents offered their time and skills to help, creating a true spirit of cooperation and solidarity. Festivals and community events began to be regularly organized, bringing life and joy to the village. The hospital and school renovations were successfully completed, transforming these institutions into models of excellence. The school was equipped with modern materials and technological resources, while the hospital received new medical equipment and facility improvements. The community's gratitude was palpable. Residents expressed their appreciation in various ways, from small gestures of affection to significant contributions to ongoing projects. Sarah felt deeply touched by the positive response and the unconditional support from everyone around her. Meanwhile, James faced the consequences of his actions. He not only lost all the assets he had acquired dishonestly but was also publicly exposed as a traitor and manipulator. His reputation was ruined, and he found himself in misery, without the support of friends or family. As Sarah reflected on her journey, she felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. She had overcome immense obstacles, found true love, and created a bright future for herself and her son. Her mother's legacy was safe, and she was determined to honor it every day. The renovations began quickly, and Sarah involved herself in every detail. The schools were equipped with new materials, and the hospital received modern equipment. The community was excited, and the residents' gratitude was evident. Sarah found renewed purpose in her work, and her relationship with Mark flourished. They began seeing each other daily, sharing laughs and challenges. Lucas and Timmy became inseparable, further strengthening the bonds between the families. Meanwhile, Jean continued to be a pillar of support. He shared stories about Eleanor, helping Sarah better understand her mother's decisions. "She was always a wise woman," he said. "She knew you would find your way." Sarah decided to help Mark get prosthetics, allowing him to walk again. It was a long process, but when Mark took his first steps with the prosthetics, the emotion was indescribable. "You gave me a second chance, Sarah," he said, holding her firmly. Sarah felt deep gratitude and love for Mark. They had faced so many challenges together, and in the end, they found strength and comfort in each other. "We're in this together, Mark. We'll always be," she replied with a smile. The school and hospital renovations continued at full speed. Sarah organized community events to raise funds and raise awareness about the importance of the projects. The community's response was incredible, with everyone contributing as they could. Sarah also dedicated herself to improving the lives of the villagers. She organized training workshops, offering courses in crafts, cooking, and other practical skills. These initiatives helped increase the self-esteem and income of local families. Lucas and Timmy were thriving at the renovated school. They participated in extracurricular activities and made new friends. Seeing Lucas so happy and fulfilled gave Sarah immense pride and satisfaction. Sarah also began working on a project to revamp the local park, turning it into a safe and welcoming space for children. She mobilized volunteers and secured donations from local businesses to fund the work. As she worked tirelessly on community projects, Sarah and Mark found time to strengthen their relationship. They enjoyed leisure moments together as a family, exploring nature around the country house and participating in community events. One night, while sitting by the lake, Mark took Sarah's hand. "You transformed not just this house but also our lives," he said, his eyes full of emotion. Sarah felt a wave of gratitude and love. She had found in Mark a loyal and loving companion, someone with whom she could share her dreams and hopes. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied, smiling. The village community also got involved in the renovations. Local residents offered their time and skills to help, creating a true spirit of cooperation and solidarity. Festivals and community events began to be regularly organized, bringing life and joy to the village. The hospital and school renovations were successfully completed, transforming these institutions into models of excellence. The school was equipped with modern materials and technological resources, while the hospital received new medical equipment and facility improvements. The community's gratitude was palpable. Residents expressed their appreciation in various ways, from small gestures of affection to significant contributions to ongoing projects. Sarah felt deeply touched by the positive response and the unconditional support from everyone around her. Meanwhile, James faced the consequences of his actions. He not only lost all the assets he had acquired dishonestly but was also publicly exposed as a traitor and manipulator. His reputation was ruined, and he found himself in misery, without the support of friends or family. As Sarah reflected on her journey, she felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. She had overcome immense obstacles, found true love, and created a bright future for herself and her son. Her mother's legacy was safe, and she was determined to honor it every day. Over time, Sarah and Mark married, forming a new family with Lucas and Timmy. The fully renovated country house became a home filled with love and laughter. The schools and hospital became models of success, attracting students and patients from neighboring villages. Mornings at the country house were filled with laughter and lively conversations. Sarah and Mark got up early to make the most of the day, starting with a family breakfast on the porch. Lucas and Timmy ran through the garden, playing and exploring every corner. Sarah and Mark shared household and professional responsibilities, working together to ensure everything was in order. Sarah continued her work at the hospital, where she was respected and admired for her dedication and compassion. Mark, in turn, dedicated himself to woodworking, creating furniture and handicrafts that were sold at local fairs. The village community thrived, inspired by Sarah's story and the spirit of cooperation she had fostered. Festivals and community events became a tradition, bringing residents and visitors together in celebrations of joy and solidarity. Sarah felt a deep inner peace seeing the positive impact her actions had on the lives of those around her. She knew she had honored her mother's legacy and created a bright future for her family. The contentment she felt was reflected in every aspect of her life, from quiet moments on the porch to shared laughter with Lucas and Timmy. James, on the other hand, faced the consequences of his choices. He was in misery without the support of friends or family. His downfall was a reminder that dishonesty and greed never bring lasting happiness. He was forced to reflect on his mistakes and face the reality of his actions. As Sarah reflected on her journey, she felt a profound contentment. She had overcome immense obstacles, found true love, and created a bright future for herself and her son. Sarah's story was one of resilience and hope, showing that even in the most challenging circumstances, it is possible to find strength and happiness. She looked to the future with optimism, knowing that together they could face any challenge that arose. The country house in Lakeside became a symbol of renewal and hope. The blooming gardens, freshly painted walls, and handcrafted furniture created a welcoming and harmonious environment. Sarah and Mark often received visits from friends and family, sharing laughter and stories around the dinner table. Inspired by Sarah's story, the community began to come together to improve the village. Festivals, fairs, and community events became frequent, bringing life and joy to the place. Sarah and Mark were always at the forefront, leading projects and encouraging everyone's participation. On a sunny afternoon, while Sarah watched Lucas and Timmy play in the garden, she felt a profound peace. Mark approached and wrapped her in a hug. "We made it," he said, smiling. "Yes, we did," Sarah replied, feeling truly happy. And so, with love, determination, and community strength, Sarah and her family found a bright and hopeful future.